Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network. And of course, you can always hear the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network on Spreaker.com. We're on live, of course. We're on TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio.com, and on Stitcher.com. Don't forget, we have that offer to go to premium for 1 month for free by going to Stitcher.com/premium and entering the code BOXING. And you'll get 1 month of Stitcher Premium for free if you do that. So thank you for joining us as always. And a little late this week. A couple reasons. Number one, a lot of things have changed in my life. Got a new job. I'm working as a tour guide at Arlington National Cemetery. And the other situation is that, quite frankly, it's not a whole lot of news today, this week in the Beltway. So we're going to give you the full October schedule this week. And then I'm going to pay tribute to a groundbreaking actress that passed away this week, a woman that I've admired for a long period of time. She had a wonderful career, and I want to pay tribute to her in this podcast if you indulge me to do that. So that's what we'll do this week. Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network, brought to you as always by Real-Time Pain Relief, from boxers to ballerinas. The shoulder pain, the muscle strain, everything in between. Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief. Real-Time Pain Relief is the official pain relief of the 2020 Daytona 500. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips as always, and a book she has there. And also great jewelry and great training methods. If you go to Deborah, that's DEBRA Spears.com. As we said, a very short week this week, very short podcast. We're going to give you the October schedule, which actually started this past Friday with a loss by Kevin the Scarecrow Womack. He lost by first round knockout to Shenard Bunch of Trenton, New Jersey. That was at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on Friday, October 4th. Bunch landed an overhead right to drop Womack in the contest. The bout was stopped at 156. Womack was a late sub for this bout, and he just didn't come in ready to go with Bunch. Womack's now 9-19-4, 7 KOs, and Bunch is now, rises to 3-1, all three of his wins by knockout. He was coming off a loss, so it's a good win for Shenard Bunch out of Trenton, New Jersey. We also were scheduled to have a bout featuring Larry Hitman Pryor, who was supposed to be in a 4-round bout against the Nigerian Pitbull Efetabor Apochi of Houston. Larry Pryor out of Frederick, Maryland. Apochi's out of Houston by way of Nigeria. Now, we don't know any details about how that bout came out, whether or not that bout came about at all. So that was supposed to start our October schedule, but no word on any result from that card. As far as the rest of the schedule, it's a very, very light schedule this month. We do have Friday, October 11th at the Connecticut Convention Center, and that's where undefeated Baltimore, Maryland heavyweight Cassius Chaney will take on veteran Santander Chacha Azucar Silgado of Panama City, Panama. That bout is scheduled for 8 rounds. Chaney is 16-0, 10 KOs, has lived in New London, Connecticut, but I believe has come back to Baltimore and is training with trainers here in Baltimore. Chaney, as we said, 16-0, 10 KOs, has scored first round TKOs in his last 2 bouts, including one against Joel Calder. That took place on July 19th at the MGM National Harbor Casino, Knox Hill, Maryland. Silgado is 28-7 with 22 KOs. He's been stopped in his last 3 bouts, however, and that includes a first round TKO loss to Chaz Witherspoon on March 23rd in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So best wishes to Cassius Chaney, who is 16-0, 10 KOs, looking to continue his undefeated streak in this bout. Now, of course, the only local card on the October schedule is the Jetta Promotions card that will take place at Live Casino, Hanover, Maryland on Friday, October 18th. And we've talked a lot about that card. We updated the card last week with the announcement of Ibrahim Jawara taking on James Too Slick Early. Germantown, Maryland's Joe Wawa taking on Early out of St. Pleasant, Maryland. And also Blaze Fiedler taking on, who's out of Arnold, Maryland. He's taking on another debuting boxer, Antonio Duntonell Jr., of Baltimore. And of course, the main event of that card is Devon Nicholson taking on Devon Lee, and also in that card, Nick Kisner battling Danny Kelly in a heavyweight bout of Beltway proportions there. So that's basically the card. Nothing has been added to the card. On Friday, October 18th, we'll have live coverage of that bout, that card from Live Casino in Hanover, Maryland. So we'll see what happens there. And also, another card is Friday, October 25th. That's going to be at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the logo on that card is Haymarket, Virginia welterweight Juan de la Cruz Rodriguez. He'll face James Martin of Philadelphia in a 4-round bout. Rodriguez is 8-15-1, 6 KOs. He's lost 8 in a row, including a 6-round TKO loss to Robert Redmond Jr. That was on June 1st in Houston, Texas. Martin is 4-1, and he looks about bad for his first loss, which was a 6-round unanimous decision defeat to Kashan Hutchinson on June 22nd at 2300 Arena. Now, Martin will be facing a Beltway boxer for the second time in his career. Martin holds a 4-round unanimous decision win over Jonathan Burrs back in August of 28th in Philadelphia. I mean, that bout was at the Sugar House Casino in Philadelphia. And that is October for you, folks. That's not a whole lot going on this week, this month. The card that was scheduled for October 26th I believe the bout was going to be at Rosecroft Raceway, but that card has been postponed until sometime in November. And we do have a card coming up in November at La Fontainebleau in Glen Burnie, Maryland. That's going to be a Shabazz Brothers card. We'll talk more about that. I believe it's scheduled for November 16th. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to it. But that's, we're coming down the home stretch and quite frankly, not a whole lot coming up. Of course, we have Lamont Roach Jr. Going after the world title. In his contest November 9th against Jamel Simplified Herring. So we have a lot to look forward to, but not a whole lot to deal with in the Beltway going forward, as far as we know, unless something comes up in the not too distant future. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer to it. Now, as you know, if you listen to this podcast, every now and then, for somebody that has affected me or I admired over the years, I try to give tributes to those people when they pass on, and or not even when they pass on. Sometimes I give them to when they're still around, and like I did one recently for Ed Hill, the retired sports information director at Howard University. He's still with us and going strong. But I think in all the time I've done a tribute, I don't think I've ever done a female until now. This past week, we lost one of the great groundbreaking actresses that we've ever seen in TVs and in film, really. She was outstanding. I mean, primarily on TV, she did have a couple of major film roles, though, so we don't want to talk about her. And she was one of the first African-American females in a prominent, non-stereotypical role that I ever saw growing up when I was a kid. Her name was Diahann Carroll. Now, the first time I saw Diahann Carroll was when she played Julia Baker in the TV show Julia. Now, Julia was a very special show. It came out in 1968. It lasted for 3 years. And prior to Carroll's portrayal of Julia Baker, we didn't have a lot of African-American females, period. And then those we did have played very stereotypical roles. Now, one of the first ones was, I believe it was Louise Beavers, who played the role of Beulah in the TV series Beulah, which was based on the radio show the same name. And during the radio show, actually, when the radio show first came out, the Marlon Hurt and Beulah show, it was a radio show that was created, much like Amos and Andy, created by a Caucasian person. And he would do the voice of Beulah. He did the voice of his own voice, of course, himself. And he also did the voice of Beulah the maid. And finally, in TV, when it came to TV, of course, actually, Beulah was also a character on the old Fibber McGee and Molly radio series. And that time, Marlon Hurt did it for a little while. Then I think Hurt passed on. And they did bring African-American females to play the role. Hattie McDaniel, I think, played the role one time. Ethel Waters played the character. And I believe actually Ethel Waters, I think, played on TV. and Louise Beavers. So that's all we had at that point. And then look at the movies with Butterfly McQueen and again Hattie McDaniel, who won an Oscar for her role in Gone with the Wind, first African American female to win an Oscar for in a role. She won it for Gone with the Wind in 1939. We still did not have a lot of females in non-stereotypical or non-subservient roles. Then along comes Diahann Carroll with Julia. And of course, Julia was a nurse who had lost her husband in the Vietnam War. He had been killed in the Vietnam War. And Julia Baker was raising her son, Corey, played by Mark Kopage, by herself. And so she was a working mother, single mother, and a widow. And that was something you just did not see on television. You really didn't. And the majority of her co-stars on the show were white, specifically Lloyd Nolan, who played her supervisor on the show. And they had a great relationship. It really did. Looked wonderful. And it was a groundbreaking role for television in general. And Diahann Carroll played the role with such grace and such class. It was incredible. It really was. And so as I followed her career, I had a chance to look backwards and forwards. Now, backwards, you go to a younger Diahann Carroll who played a role. It was kind of a secondary role in the movie Carmen Jones, the opera based on the movie that was based on the opera Carmen. And of course, that was a groundbreaking role in its own right because it was an all-black version of Carmen. And of course, it starred legendary Dorothy Dandridge, Harry Belafonte, Pearl Bailey, and Diahann Carroll. Now, Pearl Bailey, of course, had a lot of ties to Washington, D.C. She graduated from Georgetown University well after she had been a famous actress and singer and all that. But Diahann Carroll played Pearl Bailey's friend and Carmen's friend in Carmen Jones. So for many people, that was one of the first big roles. She also played in George Gershwin's Porgy and Bess. Had a co-starring role in that movie as well. So she had always been in some landmark things. And again, she was an actress. She was a singer. She's one of those actresses and performers that could do pretty much everything. And that's what you had to be back in those days. Actually, white and black had to be that way back in those days. And you look at people like Sammy Davis Jr., look at people like Mel Torme, a gentleman who would become Diahann Carroll's husband for a few years, Vic Damone, was somebody who could act, he could sing, he could do everything. And Diahann Carroll was certainly involved with that as well. Later on in her career, she played in another groundbreaking role in the movies when she played opposite James Earl Jones in the movie Claudine. And she was nominated for an Oscar for that role. And outstanding movie. Just a really, really great drama. And she was involved with that. So that was another way that Diahann Carroll was a groundbreaker during her time. And then later on after that, in the 80s, she played the role. And when she got the role, she wanted to be the first black B, and you know what B stands for, on national television. And she got the role of Dominique Devereaux. And Dominique Devereaux was a feisty character that was in the TV show Dynasty. And the way she played opposite Joan Collins, who was the original B on that show. She was the original bad girl on that show. As Alexis Carrington Colby, again, was a fantastic role, and they played off each other so well. And Joan Collins and Diahann Carroll were just wonderful in that role. I would later see Diahann Carroll, and in fact, I had a chance to watch it just the other day, as a matter of fact, because I have the entire collection of this TV show on there. She played in a role that was in the television series, one of the landmark police shows of our time. The name of the show was Naked City. It was on ABC. And in the last season of Naked City, she played in a role in a segment of in a episode of Naked City. Episode of Naked City called "A Horse Has a Big Head, Let Him Worry." And she plays a teacher who her students are all visually impaired, and one of the students decides that he wants to explore, and he leaves the group that Diahann Carroll is leading, and he goes off in the city of New York. Now, that show, by the way, was filmed entirely in New York, so where he was going was very, very scary to the viewer. You know, he would because of his eyesight, he couldn't see, so he was trying to really test himself, so to speak. Well, not to spoil the story, but he eventually gets home. But it's a great, great episode. And actually, Diahann Carroll was nominated for an Emmy for that role that she was in. So, she's just been groundbreaking. She was just groundbreaking all her career. She later played in some other movies, most notably to me anyway, The Five Heartbeats. She plays the wife of the manager of the Heartbeats. And she's very good in that role as well. She played Whitley Gilbert's mother on Different World, Jasmine Guy's mother on The Different World, and just so many different roles she was in. And she was truly a groundbreaking actress, and she's one of my all-time favorites. And she passed away this past week, I should say, October 4th, at the age of 84. And she was just tremendous, and I'm going to miss her. No question about that. We all will. Those who are fans of Diahann Carroll will miss her. Her grace, her glamour, her beauty. She was a lovely lady. And just her tremendous acting talent. No question about that. So my condolences to the family and all her fans of the legendary Diahann Carroll. I just did a very short podcast today, and we're going to hopefully get back next week and try to give you some more information about what's going on in the Beltway boxing scene. Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network, brought to you as always by Real Time Pain Relief. Go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief, the official pain relief of the 2020 Daytona 500. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com with great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. Don't forget to go on boxonbeltway.blogspot.com for updated news, and also you can buy items on the Amazon.com link there, and also I can always be reached on Twitter at Digital25. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I'm Gary Digital Williams, reminding you as always, keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.